So the first thing that I just want to share with you before we kind of dive into it is I would love to get your feedback. So if you want to scan that QR code, or Andre will put a link in the chat where you can access that feedback form. But basically, we've been doing this for a year. We would love to hear your own ideas in terms of what you like, maybe what you don't like, any ideas for or suggestions for improvement, any topics you would like to see next year, anything like that. We would love to hear from you and would really appreciate that. So it should only take a minute. You can share as much or as little feedback as you like. So that is just there for you to scan or to click the link that is in the chat now.
As long as it's all positive.
Yes, exactly.
I know. Well, constructive. Yeah, no, it'd be great to hear what everybody thinks or what to do next or topics that people are interested in. Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah. I don't mind if you want to drag me, if you hate coming here, you drag yourself here every month for some reason. I don't mind. I want to hear. I want to hear all sides. But no, that'd be brilliant if you can get our any sort of suggestions or comments there. So I thought as well, just in terms of opening up the session, might do a little quiz. I kind of love a pub quiz. I feel like I haven't been to one in ages, but this one, it's fairly short and hopefully not too stressful or too taxing. But I have a little quiz that I will open in a poll, so you'll be able to see it in front of you just in a second. All the questions are based on our previous Never Mind the Buzzwords sessions. So you might have to cast your mind back to the start of the year, see if you can remember. If you don't, that's fine as well. It's all anonymous. So give it a guess and see what you think the answers might be. So I'll pop the questions up here. The first one is, what did Google find was the #1 predictor of high performance in their Project Aristotle? So they did some research to find what makes a high-performing team. Is it structure and clarity? What's the #1 predictor? Structure and clarity, psychological safety, or meaning? Okay, so which of those do you think is the #1 predictor of a high-performing team? The second question is, what percentage of people planned to change jobs in 2022? So there was research published by LinkedIn back at the end of 2021, kind of start of 2022. So was it 16%, 37%, or 63%? What do you think is most likely? So that was, again, it was published in January 22. So it'll be interesting to see what the actual figures are like, but they were surveying Irish employees and researching, who plans to change their role in the new year. The next question then is, what is a process map for? Okay, so is it to visually map out workflows and processes? Is it to map out where each item in a workstation should go? Or is it to document processes so that you have a record of the processes that were completed in a day? Okay, so we did a session on process mapping not too long ago. Question 4, what percentage of people in Ireland are affected by anxiety disorders? So that was discussed back in July in a session on kind of, being resilient and calm in the face of challenges. And we opened it just talking about the challenges that people face. So do you think that it is 2.5% of people? Do you think it's 6.3% of people? Or do you think it is 10.1% of people in Ireland? The next question, does anyone remember what the third P was for our triple bottom line? People, planet, and is it either profit, passion, or power? Then the sixth question, does anyone remember how many building blocks there are on our digital transformation canvas?
I think you've actually given the answer there.
Oh, Oh, I just saw that there. Okay, that's
It's not 7. It's not 7.
that's there to trick you. Oh God, I hope I've taken them out of the rest of them. Let's see. Have I? Oh no, I haven't. Okay, I'm not putting them up now.
Don't make it too taxing for people. Make life
Exactly.
easy.
Yeah, we're giving them some clues. So what number 7 there is, what is the target time of a SMED project? Is it 1 minute? Is it less than 10 minutes? Or is it less than an hour? We had that back. I can't remember which month it was now. We had Richard
I think it was
Burke.
July.
July
Richard
as
Burke
well.
did
Oh,
it, yeah.
brilliant. Yeah.
July or August.
Perfect. And then the 5th one there, or sorry, the 8th one there, I was looking at the number 5 in front of me. What does the I in SIPOC stand for? Is it inventory, influence, or input? So I can see we've got a good few people have responded. Let's see. And yeah, Matthew, you're saying validates us early. You can get the little kind of taster there of what it is. And thank you, Matthias. I hope, yeah, Matthias, I think is probably the most loyal Never Mind the Buzzwords fan or follower. So you probably have can remember some of these from the previous sessions that you would have attended. So let's see, have we got most people now? I think we've got a good few responses. I'll just give you another minute and we can then see what the responses are. Okay. Okay, so I'll pop the answers up. Let me just double check. Okay, we've got, okay, perfect. I'll pop the answers up there and we can see. So for the first question, a few people were saying that it's structure and clarity. A few people were thinking it was meaning, but the correct answer was actually psychological safety. So all of those 3 were included as factors of high performing teams, but they found that psychological safety was the number 1 predictor. And actually they found that, you know, out of the top 5 things, the other 4 really depended upon psychological safety being there. So it was kind of the enabler for the really successful teams. So that's the answer to the first one. Second one, the percentage of people who planned to change jobs in 2022, 63% of people said that they planned to. So as I said, that was, you know, this was around the time where there was that great resignation or the great reshuffle or whatever you want to call it. A lot of people choosing to change jobs. You know, maybe wanting a bit of variety or maybe, you know, reassessing what they want from their work. So it'll be really interesting to see what the actual figures are, you know, once we get a bit of data on that, how many people did end up changing jobs in 2022. A process map, 100% of people got that correct. So Stuart, that was your session. I think you must have done a great job, communicated it very well.
And Kasia, don't forget
And Kasia, I
Kasia's
could see.
here,
Oh yeah, Kasia's there. Hello. Exactly, and Eamon.
Hi guys.
So how are you?
Good, thank you. I'm like, look at the quiz going like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, what score did you get? No. So yeah, well, we've got the 100% of people saying that yes, it was to visually map out workflows and processes. And then we had what percentage of people in Ireland are affected by anxiety disorders. And yeah, the correct answer is 6.3. I think a good few people were thinking it would be 10% or 10.1%. Ireland actually ranked in the top 10 countries worldwide for the percentage of the population who is affected by anxiety disorders. And that's from the World Health Organization. So it is still, you know, a sizable kind of chunk of people. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that later on. The triple bottom line, that 5th question there was kind of a mixture amongst the answers, but the correct answer was profit. That was the one that we proposed, as opposed to passion or power, but all of those are important as well, I think. Number 6, we had 7 building blocks on the digital transformation canvas. We will be showing that to you again, just to refresh your memory. And then the last question, or sorry, the second last question was the target time of a SMED project. Yeah, the correct answer was less than 10 minutes. A few people guessing less than an hour, but yeah, it was less than 10 minutes. And then number 8, what does the I in SIPOC stand for? And the correct answer was input, as opposed to infantry or influence.
Actually, they were listening in all our sessions, I think, weren't they?
Yeah, I think it's a good sign. There's some good scores coming through there.
We did well, Stuart. We did well.
or we pitched it too low, one or the other.
Okay, brilliant. So as you can see, I've got the actual answers there on the slides. So we have those there. Okay, brilliant. So I suppose I just wanted to introduce that as a kind of a little warm up to kind of remind us of some of the things that we have covered over the year. I suppose to start off, best place to start was probably January, back in 2022. The first session that we did, I had the absolute pleasure of kicking off the year by chatting to Nikki Daly. She is an Irish hockey player. So she played at the Olympics and the Hockey World Cup. And we had a really, really interesting chat about how to build a high performing team and her experience of that. So, you know, her experience, it had been a bit more of a hierarchical team. There was sort of strict rules on how the senior players would kind of rule the team and the junior players were sort of expected to stay quiet. And they worked on this culture and they made a lot of changes and put in a lot of effort to change that, to the point where it became a much more equal team where everyone had a role, everyone had a voice. So I'll just share a quick clip from that. If you do want to catch up on any of the recordings, if you're kind of like, oh, I missed that, I didn't know that was on, Andrew will put a link in the chat to the YouTube playlist. So you can, there you'll find all the recordings from all the previous sessions. So feel free to have a look back over this, but I just have a quick clip that I will just share now.
So we did so much work with our psychologists over the last couple of years. I suppose because our cycle is a 4-year cycle, the Olympics is the pinnacle, so things tend to kind of ramp up in the 2 years leading into that. And I think we did a lot of work in the last 2 years just trying to move from, you know, how strong we finished 2018 with the World Cup and how together we were as a team, and everyone recognized, geez, these girls, they just go out and they have fun. And that was a huge element of it. It wasn't that like we didn't focus intensely on the tactics and the hockey and what we needed to do. We did. But, you know, by having that culture of everyone's valued, everyone has a voice, everyone has the freedom to express themselves, it meant that there was no problem with, you know, enjoying it along the way. So, and I think that was another big difference from when I first started in the squad. It was very serious, and it's like, you know, you should sit there in the changing room and, you know, look like you're intensely focused, as in like, you know, I better just look like I am even if I'm not. Yeah. Whereas, you know, it's so different to the changing room in the World Cup, where there's a full-on party going on and there's like a rave and there's music and people are running around, and it's like, that's because they've done their prep work themselves individually, and there's that trust that, you know what, I trust that every individual in here has done their preparation, that they're ready to go, they're ready to perform, and that's a big thing as well. And maybe, you know, when I look back now at the first couple of years that I played and in the team and the environment I was in, maybe there wasn't that trust there, and so it had to be kind of, you know, go in there, do this, sit here, look this way, you know, don't smile, don't look like you're having fun, look serious, look intent, because, you know, you didn't want to be criticized in any way or given a reason as an excuse that that's why you didn't perform. And I think that has been a big difference as well in terms of how the sort of the team is run, and the fact that it's the individual responsibility of the person to know their role, do their role, and do it to the best of their ability. So
So I really like that clip. I think it just, and I think it's applicable. Obviously, she's talking about it in a sports context, but I think it's really, any team that you're a member of, it's that importance of not just your technical skills, but also the mindset is so important, and putting in the time and effort to, focus on the how are we doing our work as opposed to, or as well as just doing the work.
And that trust piece, so that you arrived and not only had you done your work, but you were confident that the others there within the team had done their work,
Yeah.
and that trust was built up over the wet winter gray evenings,
Yeah.
doing the training, to get to that point, which meant, and yeah, I mean, the trust piece was the bit that really resonated for me, and in that clip, with teams, and how much that then translates into, the work environment, and when we arrive at the destination or we arrive at the project, I mean, do we trust that everybody has got their ducks in a row, or their lucky balls in there, and whatever the analogy might be from there. Yeah, she was great,
Exactly.
Nikki. Yeah,
really, really interesting. Yeah, if I could recommend one, I'd probably recommend this one, just because I just found it so interesting, and maybe I'm biased because it was the first one, but
and
that is great.
and I'm not sure if anyone has followed Nikki on LinkedIn or Twitter since that, but I mean, prior to doing hockey to World Championship and Olympic standard, she was also on this Dublin football team, and then she had to select which sport she was done, which she do, and she was also a motorsports engineer, which is the career she's moving back towards now as well. But then I was in touch with her recently, and she's taken part in the e-scooter World Championships, which is now a thing apparently. So these electronic scooters that were given out about on the roads, Nikki now has taken. She's actually a driver for the Carlin team, who she was an engineer for, and she's doing that on the international stage as well, which looks like great fun. But yeah, not for me. I'm not sure the balance would be there. But I think racing, and she mentioned it kind of briefly in the session, I think racing's in her blood. Her father, before he died, was a motor racer, and her uncle and her cousin and so on. So it's it's just to see that drive and that ability to it's interesting to see what's going to happen next for
exactly.
like that.
Yeah. And I think we touched on that in the session, which kind of ties in with a session that we were doing yesterday for the Limerick Chamber, which was on growth mindset, because I think Nikki was talking about, maybe there is some natural element of, being able to do well at sport, but that's not enough to just rely on maybe a natural talent. There's also so much hard work and, the mindset element that goes into it as well. So I suppose, sorry, we can keep moving along to the digital sessions that we facilitated. Stuart, do you want to talk a bit about these?
Yeah, I mean, these were one of the first. These were the first process ones. I think we'd one or two people sessions under our belt before we started the process ones. And I know we started talking about digital transformation. It still is all the talk. And we broke it into this digital transformation canvas, which we talked about. But before we even got to that, what was kind of coming up for us in our client facing conversations was the tools that we had at our disposal. And I think in this session we aimed, you can move on to the next slide there, to take in either the Microsoft environment, which a lot of people were paying for, or the Google Workspace, and there was so much in the Microsoft environment that we couldn't do the Google one within the time slot, and it was really just pointing out to people, that when there is conversation around digital transformation and digitization and buying apps and costs and all that most of us were paying 9, 10, 11 euros a month for Microsoft or Google, wherever it might be, had all of these tools available at our disposal, and it was running through them. So beyond the Word, the PowerPoint, and the and Excel, we had apps like SharePoint, task management, Sway, bookings, calendar, OneDrive, workflows, business intelligence, so data visualization, and then even the ability to create little apps within the system as well, you know. And I said, I think it was quite surprising. I think it was quite surprising for myself, but then also everyone in the session as well kind of took, well, Jesus, here's this thing we were paying for and that we're barely scratching the surface on as well. And then on the day as well, we also had another speaker who kind of came in and gave us some tips of shortcuts and tips and tricks in Excel that you could do, which were really which were really worthwhile. And a lot of people took a lot from that as well. We then brought that into the digital building blocks for a business on the next slide, Julie. And really within the digital building blocks was trying to give some kind of framework for people to actually, you know, stop jumping to a solution, you know, and to kind of say, look, if you're planning your digital journey, it's not just about going out and buying a product. It's about thinking about what your business is, and looking at it across these kind of 7 pillars, similar to a business model canvas, and trying to understand where are we currently within that model, you know. So where are we currently at across these pillars? So the pillars where customer centricity, emerging new technologies, excuse me, cloud and data, digital business development, process engineering, digital leadership, culture, and digital marketing, and to kind of think where we are in each one of them, what our level of maturity is, and then where do we want to get to, you know. And really important to, before we jump to buy, that we're considering across these pillars, and thinking about how we want to get there or what it is we want to do. And it's really to stop us jumping to solutions and to get us spending more time on our problems, and the vision for our products being sold as well, and really kind of getting that out there, you know. And I mean, even in conversations we've had this week with you know, with a publisher, you know, with a publisher who's publishing a physical product, and for digital transformation for their plan, they wanted to improve their SEO, you know, which is a worthwhile exercise to do. But you know, when planning properly and looking through it through the digital lens of a business model is, you know, how could that product be digitized in any way? Can an app be made out of it? How can we create recurring revenue from it? So it's pulling people back from kind of solutions. Tools like this pull people back from solutions and kind of getting into kind of setting out visions and goals and situation. Well, where would they like their product to be, rather than just improving the current situation? What can they do to really innovate within that as well? I think that was probably one of the biggest things, or the advantages of using a tool like this, which we went through and in that session, Julie, as well. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and not forgetting the culture and the leadership, that, you know, what are our people? Are our people going to embrace the change? You can move on. No, it's okay. Are our people going to embrace the change? And what are they going to do in terms of it? Because we've got to bring people with us to sign up for the change. And that came up yesterday in the growth mindset workshop.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to bring a new technology, a new application, a new tool to do something in the business, but we actually haven't got that growth mindset or that culture in the business where people believe with hard work and effort they can learn. That's going to be a big battle to fight through as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. If people feel like, oh, that's so much, you know, of an additional burden, you know, how do we kind of communicate that? No, it's not. It's actually going to make your life easier. So yeah, just even continuing on then, one of the other sessions we had on, it was the 16th of March, so it was the day before St. Patrick's Day, and we were talking about, you know, multicultural teams, because Ireland is it has, you know, such a multicultural workforce now. Obviously, there's a lot of Irish diaspora working around the world as well, and we had Bridget Farrell from All Talk Training on as a guest, and she was sharing her really interesting insights and experience on how to build more inclusive teams that are multicultural and diverse, you know, where there may be language barriers or cultural differences. And we used Menti, and we asked the attendees about some of their challenges and some of the benefits of multicultural teams. And that's just a screenshot from some of the comments that came in. You know, it was a lot of those things around different habits, different cultures, different languages, you know, maybe not fully understanding each other. Maybe there's conflict or there's miscommunication, different ways of handling those. And I think that, you know, diversity, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because if it's not managed effectively, it can lead to that conflict, that miscommunication. It can lead to people not feeling like they belong on a team. But it can also lead to serious benefits like improved decision making and better problem solving, which people mentioned when we asked what were the benefits. The more viewpoints you have on a situation, the more likely you are to find a really effective solution to a particular problem. So it's seeing things in new ways, in different ways. But as I say, it kind of has to be managed, and the effort has to be put into accepting and including other differences basically in different people. Yeah, Matthias, I can just see your comment there. Inclusion and diversity in the workforce need to be brought up more. Just again, yeah, like that. If we're not aware of it, it might lead to those kind of challenges that we mentioned there. Okay, so I suppose we can keep going on then to the sustainable business models. You saw in the quiz there, the triple bottom line, people, planet, and profit. If you want to take that away, Stuart.
Yeah, again, this was similar to the digital business model and the original business model. I mean, this was as much about documenting our business with a sustainability lens on it. So it was taking our business model and putting a green lens on it. And I think we started talking about this wicked problem, which is which it was one of my favorite things. The wicked problem is a problem where it's so complex that there's it never ends, and there's so many interdependencies that when you make efforts to solve one part of it, it has an effect somewhere else in the business. And so they're problems that are socially complex, and climate change, sustainability is one of those things. And I mean, taking this triple bottom line approach is that when we make a decision or a change, especially within our businesses, that there has to be something in it, benefits in it, or no harm in it for the people within our teams or the community or society as a whole that's connected with it. There has to be profit in it for the business, because the business has to be able to sustain itself, and keep those jobs going. And then there has to be, no harm or benefit in it for the planet. And I think it was able to take that, take our business and start to consider it across those factors. Having that triple bottom line really is a significant advantage. And again, it comes back to this innovation piece. I think, so many companies now are being brought through, some of them even being made to go through, sustainability programs. They have to be seen to be doing these things, and it's trying to go beyond that with them. And if you want to move on to the next slide with a bigger version of the canvas, and kind of see that this is all about innovation, so sustainability, digitalization, lean, whatever, but it's about innovating. It's either about innovating in our processes by doing things quicker, better, or across that triple bottom line, or innovating in our products, our services, how we deliver things. And if we can innovate, we tend to improve, we tend to reduce costs, and we also tend to be able to make our products more sellable as well. And again, that innovation, then if it has that triple bottom line benefit, it is absolutely excellent as well. And I mean, we've been using this canvas a lot across the year with businesses, just again to benchmark, like, where are you at, in terms of your customers. It's great that perhaps you provide a service, maybe even an electronic service, but when your customers go and use that thing that they've done or they've taken from you, what kind of activities are they doing? Like, have we trained them how to do something online, and then they go travel to the developing world and then they behave appallingly over there? So what can we do to improve that, to educate our customers more, so that they can go out and do good in the world as well? Our channels of delivery, can we use more circular distribution? What happens with the end of life of our product? Who are our partners? Who's in our supply chain? So really just starting to consider our business across this sustainability business model canvas. just again, it's just striving for innovation, and we've seen, good success with this, where companies have innovated, they've added products, they've added value to their customers, and reduced their impact on the environment as well. So again, there's benefits in it for the company. They're improving their products and services. There's benefits in it for the people that work there and their community and their customers, and they're doing no harm or improving their impact on the planet as well. So again, it's a great tool, and actually it's one that we're going to redo in more detail in January as well. So I mean, a lot of people have been on to us about their targets and sustainable development goals. So we're going to have a full session again on this particular tool, and especially the innovation piece of it in the new year, and late in January. I think we have a penciled in for it, Julie.
Yeah, brilliant. And just if people are interested in this canvas and the others, these are all shared after each session. So I send out an email after each, and it has a link to the resources. So Andrew might just pop a link to that as well, just so that you all have it, just in case you're, having a look at any of this and you're going, oh yeah, I'd love to see a copy of that, or I want to remind myself of it. You can access it through that. So I suppose we'll keep going along to a session which we had on, creating a great place to work. And we had Emma O'Gorman Wall on, who works for Crown Roofing and Cladding, and they were awarded Great Place to Work multiple times. So we were asking, how do you achieve that? How do we bring that in? So I have a clip which I also have timing for the slides, and I'm just hoping it works. Sometimes you make the timing and it works out perfectly in practice, but we'll see. Let's see what happens.
Huge amount of work around, performance reviews, around the onboarding, huge amount of work around, performance reviews, around the onboarding that we do with them. There's an onboarding program. The people that work, as much as possible, we try and get them to come to head office, and we have spent a lot of time here with them, and just chat to them, show them, introduce them to the various different people that are responsible for the various different parts of the company that they'll be needing to reach out to. Obviously salary, competitive salary, flexible working options, the whole host of well-being supports, the training, so putting them on a career path so that they know where they're going and what's in store for them if they want it. We've brought some of the guys that would have come in at kind of like site operative level. We've brought them up through to site supervisor level, and then some of them have actually gone on to study construction technology, and are now project managers. So, we try to home grow our own talent as much as we possibly can. It's not always possible with a rapidly growing company, but as much as possible, we nurture the people that are here and try and offer them career paths. What I hear from people, because I'm very biased, so I'll probably, but what I hear from people is basically they feel that they matter, and they feel that if they have an issue or that they reach out, that they're listened to. If things are going badly for them, we'll come in and we'll actually help. So there's very much a team spirit here, and there's none of this, it's not a toxic workplace in any way, because I think we lead from the top, so we don't do it at the top level. So any of this kind of politicking or toxic stuff, it's just not tolerated, and it's not the culture here. So if there's something happening, we listen, and we try as much as we possibly can to put things right and to listen to the person. So I think across the company, people feel that they belong and that they're listened to, and that it's a good place to work.
So I thought that really kind of captured, she was sharing some of the things that they do, that they find work for them, that allows them to achieve that Great Place to Work award. Did you want to come in there, Stuart?
Yeah, sorry, I was my dramatic pause before I came in. Yeah, I thought what was I said that resonate, and I think it might have even been it as part of our pre-call. I mean, I was in Emma before the session, and we had a call with her beforehand, and it came up in the session as well. Was during COVID, the panic was on to manage geographically dispersed teams, and here was an organization in the construction industry with people everywhere in different sites that kind of had already, whether it was perfect or not, I don't know, but they were managing geographically dispersed teams. And listening to Emma talk about, that onboarding process and the coaching and the training and the mentoring that they were doing, and getting out to sites, that they were managing geographic dispersion when they actually had to travel to the geographically dispersed site, as opposed to connect in on Zoom or Teams or whatever. So, I mean, I thought it was a really, perhaps was an industry that was overlooked for geographic dispersion, when everybody was scrambling to work out how to overcome the challenges of geographic dispersion. And yourself, Judy, we covered a lot of it with a lot of businesses during COVID and afterwards, especially as the blended and the hybrid models kind of became more permanent, or have become more permanent, and the different practices and team contracting, and I know you mentioned that later on, came into place. But here was somebody doing it for years, and then not only had it done it, they had improved their retention, they kept their staff, and yet the great place to work recognition was there for them as well, all along this physically geographic dispersed teams, which was great. It was really interesting to hear Emma's approach there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot to learn from her. And as I said in that quiz at the start, it is a really important time to be considering how you attract and retain the best talent. Like we said, we saw that there was 63% of people intended to change jobs. So there's a huge desire for, workplaces where they tick all these boxes, where someone feels that they belong, that they matter, they're listened to, etc. I just want to check in and just see, does anyone have any kind of questions or comments at this stage, or any sort of insights that you have taken that we haven't covered yet? I would love to hear those if you do. So pop them into the chat, or you can feel free to unmute yourself. But maybe while those are coming in, we might keep moving along onto our lean culture benchmark that Stuart and I kind of co-facilitated this one. We combined the people and the process to try and come up with this lean culture benchmark. And this was, towards the end, we were saying, okay, how do we, once we've got a handle on, we've kind of measured it and we've acknowledged where we're at, how do we begin to make improvements to our culture? So just, anyone's jumping out at you there, Stuart, that you
I think it's and I mean, again, this came up yesterday as well, in the growth mindset webinar in Limerick, that so many things are abstract, and I think even leadership is abstract, and leadership development, and everybody talks about it. People love to talk about it, as we all know, but so much of it is so abstract. And I think, when you make it tangible with the psychometric tests and the coaching afterwards, and then linking it into the change initiatives like lean or new tools or any kind of new machinery or learning or applications, it becomes an awful lot more tangible, and the value becomes much clearer. And I think, in the lean culture benchmark, we talked about not just the leadership, but we talked about teams and psychological safety and the leaders' roles in creating them. So, and when you map it through, and companies go for the full kind of program, or they take the approach to implement it, to go and try and improve it all, the teams feel different, because the leadership quality has improved. So that's tangible, there's a difference in terms, and then performance of the teams can be measured, and satisfaction and retention and engagement. So it's about getting the right metrics around it. So and this one, it was about measuring, reflecting, and improving, and these were some of the things that can be done there. But developing leaders, and even when we've done this in terms of implementations before, we found that the leaders who had been coached then wanted to have those coaching skills, so they wanted to become coaches to build it into their toolbox, which then only had an even further benefit on the on their relationship with their followers and their team members as well, you know. So yeah, lots of tangible benefits here as well.
Mm.
Yeah, and applicable. I mean, we've done a lot of work with this in larger companies, you know, bigger size, but tangible in the smaller businesses as well, you know, especially when people are scrambling to retain talent, you know, the old mindset of being grateful for a job, especially in smaller businesses, you know, that dial needs to change, you know. So it's important for smaller businesses to be making the jump on improving their leadership and their teams as well.
Definitely. And I think it's you know, it's great when you can see then them reaping the benefits, you know, where like you're unlocking that potential, like, you know, psychological safety is there, which we saw at the start with the quiz. That's the #1 predictor of those high performing teams in Google. You know, it's the kind of enabler. It's sort of like the soil that allows teams to then grow and flourish. Just to point out kind of one aspect of the culture of you know, but I think it's great to see then when you see the you know, the kind of potential of the innovation and creativity sort of being unlocked for a team. And, you know, then I think it's kind of like, how could we ever go back to the old way of doing things, you know?
And, you know, actually the research that this lean culture benchmark was built on also found that a predictor of psychological safety was quality of leadership. So the better the leadership, you know, in terms from a authentic and a transformational way, the more likely that leader was, you know, it directly predicted the presence of psychological safety, whether it was by design or by accident. So it kind of, it always pushes back to kind of starting with the leader, then moving into the team, and then going broader into the organization as well, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, they have such an important role to play.
Yeah.
So speaking of teams, we did have a session on building resilient teams that can, you know, adapt to the various challenges that we'll face. And this was in April. So I was coming up with these 6 C's for building resilient teams, not to be confused with something that we later covered then in July. We had Caroline Cunningham who came on. I'll just mention that in a second, but she had her framework of the 7 C's to calm. So it's about, you know, dealing with kind of anxiety and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of mention both of those because, you know, I think that, like say, even we're coming into Christmas time, like, you know, it can be a really difficult time. It can be a really challenging time for people. But so being reminded of, you know, ways to be resilient and be kind of connected to people is really important. So this was just something that we shared, you know, about the potential for your team coming together and maybe figuring out what are the beliefs or strategies that we want to implement. You know, how do we ensure that we are working together as a team to be able to be resilient and adapt to the challenges that we face. So, you know, for example, being flexible with your thoughts, so how you approach change, retaining a sense of control, so focusing on the stuff that's within your control and your influence, having a willingness to be challenged, having that growth mindset, which we've kind of touched on a couple of times now, seeing adversity or stress as an opportunity to grow. Commitment, being able to be committed, being clear on what you're trying to do, what is your goals, what are you motivated for. Connect, using the power of relationships. I think sometimes we can get a bit task focused when things are busy and we forget about the maybe slower or messier work of building relationships. So showing that you care for other people and having candor, having the bravery, the courage, and also the environment where you feel comfortable speaking up, sharing ideas, voicing issues. Again, that ties in with psychological safety, you know, being able to challenge the status quo. And so I put up these kind of post-it notes, you know, as a suggestion, as if, you know, what a team might come together and decide, here are some beliefs we want to hold as a team, or here are some strategies we want to implement. And I suppose it kind of ties in then with what we covered in July, where we had Caroline Cunningham on, and she, you know, was very candid about her own experiences with, say, panic attacks and anxiety in the hopes that it would help others. So I suppose, again, as we mentioned, Christmas can be a difficult time for some people. So I wanted to just recap on the suggestions that she had. If you do know someone who might be struggling, or maybe they experience panic attacks or anxiety, a couple of ways that she suggested. One is to show that there's trust, bearing in mind their need for confidentiality and privacy, to empathize with them, really demonstrate that you are here with them, you're trying to understand their situation, their experience, so not just providing advice straight away or not telling them what they should do, but rather just trying to listen to them first. Reassuring them then that they're not alone, that you're there with them, and trying to encourage them perhaps to, reach out for professional support, or reach out if there is, information that they might benefit from, and to be present with them. So giving them that space, and especially, if someone is experiencing a panic attack, that you give them that space, you kind of encourage them to slow down their breathing, bring them back to the physical moment, using something to hold to kind of ground someone in the moment. So just thought I'd recap over those, because it is really important to bear in mind. Any thoughts on any of those so far, Stuart, on the kind of resilience or anything like that?
Yeah, no, I think we're going to come into a contact perhaps people we haven't seen in a while, even with the COVID outbreak last Christmas, so larger family gatherings. So yeah, no, they're good things to keep in mind as we're going into that kind of season as well. I love it. It did resonate with me, the part about, for Caroline, giving somebody something to do, as you said, that to touch or to hold, almost brings them into a moment as well, which can perhaps, change their focus. I thought it was a great point as well.
Yeah. I think Sophie just had a good point in the chat there. It's important to remember that if you yourself are experiencing any of these issues or problem, it's not a reflection on your work. I think there definitely is still a lot of kind of stigma, I suppose, around mental health difficulties, and I think people are kind of putting, or there's pressure being put on people. I think additional pressure if someone is going through those kinds of challenges.
Yeah.
Okay, so will we keep going along then into a few of the lean sessions around SMED, process mapping, using the define tools as part of DMAIC, and going to the Gemba?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, and these are, as serious and as important, the points about the supporting a family member and being resilient around our family at Christmas. I think lean is something we could all apply to our Christmas preparations as well. From wrapping presents to writing cards to all of that, So yeah, definitely a couple of take homes we could have here.
Is that what it's like in your house, Stuart? It's a well-oiled machine.
No.
We've got elves.
But we don't wrap. We don't wrap for sustainability reasons, and also causes for effort reasons as well. You know what I mean? So sustainability has become a new word for too lazy in our house for a lot of things.
We don't need to put all that effort in, for the planet.
Yeah, brown paper, brown paper bag, so yeah, no, definitely has come true. But yeah, no, we did go full on lean or full on process then from July on. As Richard joined us, and he went through SMED, and the value of that quick turnaround time, and as we said, it's called single minute exchange of die, but it's about reducing setup time to get it under that kind of 10 minutes by breaking up kind of our processes, the things that can be done before the machine stops until after, and things that can be done after the machine starts again. And if we were to bring that back into home, what can we have the washing ready to go? So as soon as one load finishes, we can take it out and put the next one in, rather than going upstairs to try and find that load as well. The next, when we did that, we kind of went down into the define phase of the DMAIC on the next slide, Julie, and in that we kind of started to explore a lot of the tools that were there, within the define phase, and we gave an overview of them, and then we had a great discussion with Eamon and Kasha in that session about you know, the different defined tools that were at our disposal, and kind of, you know, the what we liked about them, what worked, what we found useful. And, you know, we could, you know, the purpose of those kind of sessions was not to, again, to lecture for 60 minutes. It was kind of really just to kind of say, look, you can go and find all the information about this stuff, but here's our experience of using them, and here's what works, and here's the pitfalls, and here's the challenges. You know, and what came out of that was particularly process mapping. You know, we had a full session then on process mapping and the different approaches. And again, with Eamon and Cash as well, we were talking about the practicalities of it, you know, and, you know, always a big fan here of not being absolutely too pure in your approach to, or too directive in your approach. It's about what works for the client and what's practical as well. So being flexible there, but again, talking about the pitfalls and the challenges with an approach to process mapping. And again, from the DMAIC, we had another complete session then there on slide 20, Julie, around going to the Gemba, the next one on. And in the Gemba, you know, what's getting out that it's great to process map. And, you know, I had just before the session today, I was on with a client where we were starting to process map, and she brought out like a standard work. She said, "Oh, here's the process," and I was like, "Oh, great!" And she had the 7 to 10 steps, and I was like, "Okay, great, you have that. Now show me." And when she showed me the process, it was, you know, quite a bit different than the 7 to 10 steps, because there was, you know, finding things and moving things around. So, you know, when we had the full session on the Gemba again with Eamon and Kasia, it was about getting out to see the real work in the real place, by the real people, and going out and actually observing the work that's been taking place, engaging with the people who are out there doing the work, and documenting that as well, and getting out there and just the importance of planning it and scheduling it and making it a routine. And then we also covered off the ground rules within it as well, you know, about what we should do. And it's about the process, it's not about the person. We're there to observe and discuss, not to direct as well. So you're not there to lecture anyone on it as well. So again, kind of great sessions, great take homes, and there was a lot of templates actually in that session as well. So again, if anyone hasn't got them, the Gemba templates actually had, you know, planning guidelines, there was rules, there was sample process maps there as well, that were there as well. But again, really with the Gemba, it's getting out there close to the work as part of it as well. If you just want to go forward to the next slide, then Julie as well, I think in the same session, I think it was in Galway at the time, and we had Richard Keegan from formerly of Enterprise Ireland was speaking. And I mean, this is his one of his old slides, you know, but really hear these key questions when you're getting out to people, you know, is what are you doing, how are you doing it, and why are you doing it, and then kind of getting into the point of, you know, who is going to improve it and when, you know. And when you're dealing with people, it's about fairness, firmness, and consistency. And when you're dealing with processes, it's about looking, seeing, understanding, thinking, and doing. And really kind of simple kind of rules there. You couldn't sum up, you know, getting to the Gemba and looking to see what's going on any better than those, you know, key questions and key rules. You know, I won't say for life, but definitely for people as well. And you know, I kind of think it kind of maps onto, you know, everything across we've done across the entire year. You know, when you're dealing with people, you know, you got to be fair, you got to be firm, you got to be consistent. And I think most people appreciate that. I don't know how you think that maps onto any of the leadership models we've talked about, or emotional intelligence. You know, does that ring true with them?
I think, yeah, it definitely does kind of, I suppose, yeah, you're, like you said, being that sort of fair, firm, and consistent. I think, you know, if you know yourself well, you can kind of recognize when you're, you know, obviously no human can be 100% consistent, but like that, if you're
Speak for
recognizing,
yourself, Julie. Speak for
oh yeah,
yourself.
just
Yeah.
me, sorry.
Consistently bad. I mean, as well, I could be. No, me. I
No,
me.
yeah.
No. Yeah. Consistently
Yeah,
bad.
no, like it's I think, like we were saying about emotional intelligence, and we didn't really cover it as much in this session, but like and like we were talking about in the chat, if you are dealing with your own personal issues, I think everyone has their own sort of, baggage or experiences or whatever that you're carrying with you, that, if you're then aware of, okay, I'm in, a stressed out situation, how am I going to align with who I really want to be, because I've done the work in advance to kind of say how do I want to show up, what kind of leader do I want to be. So yeah, I definitely think it ties in with
it ties across with them all,
exactly.
That was our last one, I think, was it? Yeah, well, that was Richard finished it off there for us with us summing up all of our work, all of our hours of presentations with
exactly
2 slides and
a
about
couple of
30
bullet
words.
points.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
cheers.
Yeah.
Richard, couldn't be any leaner than that.
Exactly. Yeah. It was hard even pulling all this together. There was so many, like we didn't even cover every single session, because of timing and everything. So yeah, I think there has been quite a lot. So I suppose if people are interested in these topics, there's always the resources and the recordings to look back over. And then going forward, we'll be covering more, various topics again, different topics that we haven't covered before. So if there's anything that you want us to dive into a little bit deeper, or something we haven't tackled yet, you can always share your feedback. So feel free to scan that. I just want to give, there's a few bits of news that I just wanted to share with you. For those of you on the call, one of the things is, if you are in HR, just to kind of keep an eye out for a program that we will be facilitating in the new year. Jigsaw Better Business and Inside HR have teamed up to provide this new HR masterclass series, designed mostly for HR professionals who want to take their career to the next level. So it's more so for those in a kind of mid to senior level. If you want to become a bit more strategic, if you want to sort of add more value to your function and communicate that value, and being able to sort of have a seat at the senior leadership table, and not only have a seat, but actually have your voice heard at that table. So that will be a program that will be launching soon. So if you or anyone might be interested in that, I suppose keep an eye out for that. We'll be having it up on Eventbrite and across our social media channels. And I want to also share that we have a job opportunity coming up for a digital transformation specialist. Again, just wanted to kind of put the message out there. We will be posting it on LinkedIn and Eventbrite. It's someone who would be proficient in, cloud-based systems, and would like to kind of use that knowledge and experience to help other businesses. So it's a mixture of customer-facing interactions with, understanding, have the technical know-how to solve problems. So that is an opportunity that will be coming up. So if you have any questions or are curious about that, you can feel free to get in touch. And then finally, we are looking ahead to next year or next month. We're looking at goal setting. So how to kind of, set yourself and your business up for progress and change. So it's those ideas for your operations, your leadership, digital sustainability, all the things that we've been talking about over the last year. How do we make sure we're setting those clean and clear goals?
Yeah, and I think in that one we'll be trying to give you some ideas of things you can change, of maybe what we've seen other companies, other people change, and trying to pick one thing in each of those pillars as well. So we were pulling together some kind of lists and ideas of things you can do, and maybe just small things that you can pick to kind of get something across the line in January at least as well.
Exactly. Okay, so that kind of brings us towards the end. I'll just pop up this usual slide that we have. You can always keep in touch. We've got LinkedIn. I think most of the people on the call are probably fairly familiar, but if not, you can scan that QR code and it'll bring you to all of the links that you will need. But I could see in the chat as well, Matthias, you're saying thank you so much for a great online Christmas party and for all the great sessions over the year. And he's just kind of echoing, I think, what I and Stuart would like to say as well, which is I hope you have a lovely break, a nice well-deserved rest over the Christmas period. Looking forward to seeing you all in future Never Mind the Buzzwords sessions in the new year. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to second all of that, Merry Christmas, everyone.